joining us here on KTN Newsdesk. My name is Betty Okai, and we have the latest coming up in the next 1 hour. We begin with the highlights. Unmarked graves found in Mandera as fear grows on missing persons. Varied reactions continue on the number of foreign trips made by the head of state. And President Uhuru and Ethiopian Prime Minister commissioned the multi-million shilling Moyale Ethiopia road. Well, we begin here in Kenya, and residents of Mandera County have found mass graves containing the bodies of several people who recently disappeared from the town. Now, one of the bodies discovered on Sunday was identified as that of Isnina Mohammed, a mother of two who was among latest victims of enforced disappearances and extrajudicial killings in Mandera town. The late Isnina was operating a tea kiosk opposite Arabia bus stage. She was abducted on the 2nd of December 2015 by plainclothes police officers in a civilian car, but who reportedly introduced themselves as police officers. Mandera Senator Bilo Kero condemned the killings. MPs from the county are just about to address the media on this, and of course we will keep you updated on this developing story. Now, President Uhuru Kenyatta and Ethiopian Prime Minister Haile Mariam Desalegn are today expected to launch a major program to ensure peace along the Kenya-Ethiopia border. The Kenya-Ethiopia Integrated Cross-Border and Area-Based Program will be launched in Moyale town. Residents, coordinator from the UN, Nardos Bekele Thomas Omunu, and Intergovernmental Authority on Development Executive Secretary Mahbub Malim said the main objective of this initiative was to achieve transformational change through strategic and integrated responses. The initiative is expected to replace fragmented and piecemeal support and jointly assist the region in reducing vulnerability, increase resilience, and promote inclusivity. Now, 3 Kenya Defense Forces soldiers were last evening injured in a shootout with suspected Al-Shabaab militants at Ishakani in Lamu East Sub-County. KDF spokesperson Colonel David Obonyo told KTN on phone that the soldiers were on patrol when one of them stepped on an improvised explosive device. He dismissed earlier reports that the 3 were killed in the attack. The injured soldiers were evacuated to Nairobi for medical attention. The KDF has been carrying out the Operation Linda Boni in Boni Forest, aimed at flashing out Al-Shabaab operatives said to be hiding in that forest. Now, Rwanda's president will decide whether to seek a third term in office after a referendum on constitutional change that would allow him to run again. The referendum is expected to be held later this month. The United States, a major donor that has long praised President Paul Kagame for rebuilding the nation after the 1994 genocide, has said he should set an example to the region by stepping down at the end of his second term in 2017. Kagame, who was first elected president in 2003 but was seen as Rwanda's main power broker long before that, has not announced his intentions but has said those who want him to stay must convince him. Under proposed constitutional changes approved by Parliament and being put to public vote, Kagame would be allowed to run in 2017 for another 7-year term plus 2 more 5-year terms. After that, potentially allowing him to stay in power till 2034. President Barack Obama has called on Sunday for tougher gun controls in the wake of the California shooting, starting with a ban on gun purchases for anyone on a U.S. government no-fly list. The president also said that the U.S. would continue its current strategy of airstrikes and working with local forces in Syria and would not be dragged into a ground war on foreign soil.
We will destroy ISIL and any other organization that tries to harm us. I've ordered the Departments of State and Homeland Security to review the visa waiver program under which the female terrorist in San Bernardino originally came to this country. And that's why I will urge high-tech and law enforcement leaders to make it harder for terrorists to use technology to escape from justice. Congress should act to make sure no one on a no-fly list is able to buy a gun. What could possibly be the argument for allowing a terrorist suspect to buy a semi-automatic weapon? This is a matter of national security. We also need to make it harder for people to buy powerful assault weapons, like the ones that were used in San Bernardino. The strategy that we are using now, airstrikes, special forces, and working with local forces who are fighting to regain control of their own country, that is how we'll achieve a more sustainable victory. And it won't require us sending a new generation of Americans overseas to fight and die for another decade on foreign soil.
Well, President Barack Obama described the mass shooting in California, which left 14 people dead, as an act of terrorism. In an address to the nation 4 days after the carnage, he warned that falling prey to divisiveness in American society would play into the hands of extremists. Obama vowed that the U.S. would overcome the evolving threat of terrorism, but warned that Americans cannot turn against one another by letting this fight be defined as a war between America and Islam.
So far, we have no evidence that the killers were directed by a terrorist organization overseas or that they were part of a broader conspiracy here at home. But it is clear that the two of them had gone down the dark path of radicalization, embracing a perverted interpretation of Islam that calls for war against America and the West. They had stockpiled assault weapons, ammunition, and pipe bombs. So this was an act of terrorism designed to kill innocent people.
Well, coming back home, we want to speak to our reporter Rashid Ronald, who is currently in Homa Bay attending the burial of Nairobi Governor Evans Kidero's father there. And we want to just get to know what's happening there. Rashid, if you can hear me, maybe you can just tell us what is happening there and the leaders who are present today.
Oh, yes, indeed, Linda. I'm at a place called Asumbi in Homa Bay County. That is the venue for the funeral of Nairobi Governor Evans Kidero's father, Kidero Agango. And as we're speaking right now, on the podium, the mass is already over, and now the politicians have taken over. And on the podium, it's Homa Bay Governor Cyprian Awiti, who was just welcomed or introduced the governors who are present here. But all in all is that hundreds have turned up for this burial here at Asumbi, and several politicians led by CORD leader Raila Odinga. I've seen him here. I've also seen Senator James Orengo, and also co-principal Moses Wetangula, among other leaders. And also on the side of the Jubilee, I've also seen Nairobi Senator Mike Sonko here. And of course, as expected, the issue of the Eurobond has taken center stage, and the person who opened the onslaught on the government over the manner in which it spent the Eurobond is Honorable Kaluma, the Honorable MP for Homa Bay, questioning how the government spent the Eurobond, saying that there are a lot of questions needs to be answered by the government on that front. And also, it was supported by several leaders who've just spoken, including Honorable Oburu Odinga, nominated MP. He also took over government on the manner in which they spent the Eurobond, saying that what the state spokesman was saying yesterday was this lying to the people that the money was spent well. All in all, it's about criticizing the several trips that the President Uhuru made abroad, saying that they have not achieved anything. Linda.
Right, thank you very much, Rashid Ronald there, just bringing us up to speed with the happenings in Homa Bay, where the father to Nairobi Governor Evans Kidero has just been laid to rest. But as he has mentioned, politics has taken over that particular event. We'll be keeping an eye on what is said there. Now, the National Integrity Alliance is pushing for prosecution of state officers accused of corruption ahead of International Anti-Corruption Day, celebrated on the 9th of December. Well, this comes barely days after the U.S. threatens to impose travel bans on Kenyan individuals suspected of engaging in corrupt dealings. The group, consisting of Transparency International and Society for International Development, among others, has, through Associate Director Irungu Horton, said they will hold a public procession to Supreme Court of Kenya to initiate legal proceedings against state officers accused of corruption. Take a look.
We will release a program of work that will lead to the prosecution of public servants that have not yet returned imprest. So we are putting the 200,000 civil servants on notice. 127 of them, 1,000 work for the 47 counties, and the remaining 70,000 work for national government. We will announce a program of work that will hold all public servants that have not retired their imprests legally liable for prosecution.
A critically acclaimed film about music as a source of hope for stray kids in the capital of the Democratic Republic of Congo has finally gone home. More than 2 years after being shown in Europe, the projection in Kinshasa was the first chance for many school children to see a movie on a makeshift screen in a city without a single proper cinema.
Announced with a drum roll, the Congolese screening of Kinshasa Kids. Crammed into a makeshift cinema, school pupils from one of the city's poorer areas watched the movie made by a Belgian filmmaker who was both inspired and shocked by their city.
I arrived in this incredible city full of pollution, congestion, noise and violence. At the same time, there was an incredible energy, humour, people laughing and talking, people who, despite poverty, want to go out and do things. I was very touched and also very shocked to see thousands of children in the streets.
The film tells the fictional story of a group of children forced to leave their homes after being accused of witchcraft. The street children form a hip-hop group and aim to put on a show that will rock the city. Addressing themes of poverty, violence, witchcraft and family breakdown, the film struck a chord with the children in the audience.
I watched the film and felt sorry for the children who were abandoned in the streets by their parents who thought they were witches.
The child actors in the film were recruited from the streets to play themselves. Aged around 12 at the time of the shoot 5 years ago, they say the film has changed the course of their lives.
Since I made this film, I've experienced changes. Before I didn't go to school, but now I go to school. I study.
Having fallen in love with Kinshasa, Marc-Henri is working on the second film set in the city, and one of his child actors is now his assistant director.
We want to go back to a top story that we highlighted earlier about residents of Mandera County having found mass graves containing the bodies of several people who recently disappeared from the town. And members of parliament drawn from that region are now holding a press conference. Let's listen into what they have to say about this developing story.
To go and do some process of, some legal process in terms of asking authority from, but they wanted that to do that today. So our concern is that people are disappearing. They have been disappearing for several months. In fact, for the greater part of only last week, 8 persons were missing from Mandera town. The same was happening in Garissa and Wajir. And we know the government is trying to fight terrorism. we actually did support the fight against terrorism, but have warned against any extrajudicial killing which actually targets innocent persons, or even those people who are not innocent must be taken through due process of law. This is very worrying. When we see mass graves in Wajir, now a new mass grave in Mandera, people disappearing, and we totally hold this on our Kenya Defense Forces. In the vicinity where this mass grave was found is where our military is frequent, and in fact near Umar Jala got an army camp there. So this matter you might have noticed in the social media. It has been actually hitting the social media since last night. So we like as leaders to confirm that actually did happen. We will be, of course, traveling to the region early in the morning tomorrow. We will hear more of this, but this is very serious. We would like to tell the government of Kenya to be reasonable and stop killing its own citizens. A government that kills its own citizens through its security forces will be nobody's government. We will not stop at this. We will in due course try to investigate and see whether we can actually, if our legal system cannot work, maybe ask the United Nations Rapporteur for Human Rights to call in so that this matter is addressed. So this is a very serious matter, and we will not allow it to continue. We would like to put those people who are concerned on notice that the public will uprise against them, and there will be a public uprising. Even today, people in Mandera actually were so pissed off and so annoyed with their very government that they elected, that they want to go and ban that military camp. If need be, we don't need our military guys there. If the idea is they're killing us. So let me ask maybe a few of our friends, my colleagues, to comment. But the issue of mass graves in Mandera is something serious. If could be the contents could be 5 in each of the grave, more. So you will get more information about this. It's going to be a serious matter, because this amount of extrajudicial killing must come to a stop. It must come to a stop, because we will not allow a government popularly elected by the people to do this. They will continue radicalizing further. People who are now actually being tortured and killed because of terrorism, they might get into terrorist hands. We might just find ourselves in our hands than actually dealing with them. We'll support the fight against terrorism, but it must be a process which is understood, which is legal, a process which is which follows the due process of law. Our constitution, which is actually very will elaborate in terms of human rights, safeguarding the rights of our citizens. I thank you very much. Let me ask Honorable Keru to say a few words. And karibu mheshimiwa. I'll call you.
System is done. I think the honorable member